On this edition of Cape Media News, fire destroys a home in Osterville. Prince Cove Marina work is moving forward, and Dennis residents gather together on Earth Day to help clean up trash. These stories and more on this edition of Cape Media News. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah Colvin, your host for Cape Media News. Our lead story tonight comes from the village of Osterville. The Centerville-Osterville Marston's Mills Fire Department battled a large blaze on Seaview Avenue Sunday afternoon. The fire spread rapidly through the large two-story home at 22 Seaview Avenue. Aggressive firefighting continued for almost 3 hours before the fire was brought under control. Crews from 10 surrounding towns assisted in battling the blaze. Eversource, the Red Cross, and the COMM Water Department provided additional support. The occupants were home at the time of the fire but were able to safely escape. Unfortunately, a dog was killed in the fire. The cause remains under investigation. Good news for off-roaders who like to enjoy Sandy Neck Beach Park in the warm summer days. The state of Massachusetts has obtained a federal Section 10 permit that will allow limited plover and turn takes, enabling towns to increase off-road vehicle access. Sandy Neck is one of the beaches included in this program. The new measure should mean less closures during plover nesting and fledging season, which at times has severely limited off-road access to the beach. The spring round of rabies baiting will begin this May on Cape Cod. Bait distribution will take place in the towns of Bourne, Sandwich, Falmouth, Mashpee, Barnstable, and Yarmouth. 291 bait stations will be filled during the first week of May, and hand distribution will take place at the end of the month. The bait is loaded with rabies vaccine. It's designed to be eaten by raccoons. The program has been very successful in keeping the deadly disease at bay. Although the vaccine will not harm domestic animals, people are urged to keep their dogs leashed to prevent them from scavenging the baits and vaccine packets. Humans who encounter the bait should dispose of them in brushy areas where children and dogs are not likely to find them, and please wash your hands thoroughly. Town meeting season is here, and we've got the warrants for Dennis, Chatham, and Harwich. You can easily find the published warrants online. Visit capemedianews.org and find our guide to town meeting on the Cape Media News blog. Harwich voters head to town meeting on Monday, May 1st. Municipal budget approvals facing Harwich voters include a $33 million municipal operating budget. The Finance Committee recommends approval 8-1. Voters will also be asked to approve a $24.7 million budget for the Monomoy Regional School District for fiscal 2018, $1.4 million for the Cape Cod Regional Technical School District, and a $4.1 million budget for the Water Department. Other items of note include Article 35, in which voters are being asked to approve a measure that will lease artist shacks, ticket booths, snack shacks, and other areas at Saquatucket Harbor following renovation of that area. Voters will also weigh in on a temporary moratorium on the sale and distribution of recreational marijuana. That measure would keep recreational pot shops from opening up in town. Again, Harwich voters head to town meeting Monday, May 1st at 7 o'clock at the Harwich Community Center. Chatham voters have a 40-article warrant up for discussion when they meet May 8th. On the table, approval of a $30 million operating budget, $8.9 million for the Monomoy Regional School District, $194,000 for the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School, $2.7 million for the Water Department, and $2 million for the fiscal 2018 capital budget. Voters will also be asked to weigh in on an amendment to the town's waterways bylaw. This would allow for additional moorings near Stage Harbor to allow for commercial fishing vessels that can no longer moor in Aunt Lydia's Cove due to excessive shoaling. Chatham voters head to town meeting Monday, May 8th. That meeting begins at 6 at Monomoy Middle School. Dennis voters are facing a $32 million operating budget for fiscal 2018 and a $2.1 million capital plan. Voters will be asked to approve $16 million to fund the DY School District and $14 million for the Cape Cod Regional Tech budget. Article 18 asks voters to impose a local sales tax on the sale of medical marijuana. Dennis Town meeting Tuesday, May 2nd at the Wixon Innovation School. It begins at 7. Up next, we'll learn how several Dennis residents celebrated Earth Day.
Our lives changed back on January 11th, 2011, when Chloe was told that she had infant leukemia. At that time, she was given less than a 20% chance of making it from January to February. Because of Dana-Farber, their research, and the money raised at events like this, she's still here today, and she's riding today. She gets a little shy when it's her turn to say hi. But 8 rounds of chemotherapy later, a week of radiation, and a bone marrow transplant, and she's still here to see her 5th and her 6th birthday this September. So I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you. For every dollar that's raised, especially through the PanMass Challenge, goes directly to the kids, the cancer research, and the families that it's affected. And I can tell you how much it's appreciated from the bottom of our hearts.
Hello, my name is Bill Goldsmith, and I'm the coordinator for the Cranberry Country PMC Kids Ride. Our 3rd annual ride will take place at Oak Point in Middleborough on Sunday, June 4th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Last year, we had 146 kids ride, and we raised $24,000 for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston. 100% of all rider-raised donations goes to the Dana-Farber for cancer research, patient care, and family support services. After the ride, we'll have a pizza party with lots of fun activities for the riders and their families. For more information, please visit the website at the bottom of your screen. Please tell your family and friends, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.
The town of Dennis is now a bit cleaner thanks to the work of nearly 100 volunteers who turned out on a cold and rainy Earth Day for the very first Dennis Appreciation Day.
This is the very first Dennis Appreciation Day to take place in the entire history of the town of Dennis. We've had over 75 volunteers thus far, and I think it's been a good event. They were given an assignment of rows of different levels of cleanliness, garden gloves, and a professional pickup tool, and of course trash bags to fill up with the trash along the roadsides and parks and beaches.
I chose to come here today because I walk all over Dennis and I see how much trash there is, and it's disgusting, and I want to try to help. I actually pick up trash during the year on other days, but this is a good day and I'm glad to see there's so many people out here doing it.
Particularly bothersome is the spread of nip bottles throughout the roadways. They're everywhere. I know they're extremely profitable to the liquor stores, but I wish there was a 25-cent deposit on those bottles so that people would return them.
Volunteers collected quite a bit of trash in the town of Dennis. Well, the Bass River bisects the towns of Dennis and Yarmouth and is a favorite spot for boaters, fishermen, swimmers, kayakers, and nature enthusiasts. Now a new organization is in place to help protect the Bass River and to ensure it remains a beautiful natural resource for years to come. The Friends of Bass River is a new nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting the delicate ecosystem, ponds, coves, and sub-basins of the Bass River system, currently being impacted by increasingly high nitrogen levels. The group aims to raise awareness, educate the public, and collaborate with local and regional partners. You can learn more at friendsofbassriver.org. The town of Barnstable is moving forward with construction of the Prince Cove Marina. Prince Cove will be closed through the end of the month. The entire bulkhead is being reconstructed, as you can see here. The project also includes some related site and utility work with new facilities for electrical power, lighting, and water service, along with minor regrading of the gravel parking area and installation of a new steel-backed timber guardrail. No access to the bulkhead will be available during construction. Coming up, Cape Media News Conversations.
Well, you know, the whole start of this concert started when we recognized at the museum that 2017 is the 100th birthday, and it was certainly getting a lot of press. that Cape Cod and our museum reflects that Cape Cod legacy, is an acknowledged important part of that name and the association as well as their lives. And that, you know, clearly the community could come together around events around the 100th birthday. And with what has been accomplished with the Cape Symphony, with you, Xiang Ho, and the type of rapport and excitement and dynamic programs that you are building every year for the Cape community.
At this opportunity to work with such a wonderful museum is really a dream come true. I've been wanting to do this for so many years, and I think we've put together an incredible program of great speakers. Of course, some of the Kennedy family, Ted Kennedy Jr. will be there, along with some other members of the Kennedy family, some other distinguished people like Senator Paul Kirk, who is a close family friend of the Kennedys. But we also have some wonderful musical moments too. We're going to be performing a gorgeous work by a composer named Peter Boyer, and it's called The Dream Lives On. And it takes all of the live footage of John F. Kennedy, the famous inauguration speech, the space race challenge, right, but also other famous touching speeches by Bobby Kennedy and Teddy as well. And for the first time, you're going to be able to see these speeches above the orchestra, the wonderful Cape Symphony, and great music, beautiful music, underscoring these speeches. It's going to be incredibly dramatic and moving. I think people are going to love it.
I'm Sarah Colvin. I am here today with Dorothy Savarese, the president and CEO of Cape Cod 5, who recently traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with our president, Donald Trump. So, Dorothy, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about what did you feel like when you got the call? How did you know that you were going to be one of just 11 CEOs of community banks across the nation to meet with our new president?
Well, as you know, Sarah, in my role as chairman of the American Bankers Association, I'm frequently called on to represent community banks and banking in general in a variety of settings. It was unusual to be asked to participate in a meeting at the White House, and it was an opportunity for us to make the case for community banks. So on that level, it was very exciting.
Absolutely, and I think it's important, I think, especially if we're talking about the national level, much attention is paid to the kind of larger banks, the corporate banks. So seeing that, that our president does want to pay attention to our smaller community banks is certainly important. And I understand that he is looking at changing some regulations. So what input was he looking for from you and your colleagues?
That's a great question. We were very happy to see that the president and his administration, as so many legislators understand, that well-meaning regulation was crafted that has had good effects, and yet some pieces of it are not designed to be tailored for smaller institutions and have actually had an unintended consequence of inhibiting our ability to meet local needs. So he was looking for the specifics of what obstacles were standing in the way of us lending to small businesses, making mortgages, and meeting community needs. And so he asked very specific questions about each of our economies and the type of businesses that operated there, and what obstacles were presented, and then what would be a solution to that. And the staff was very engaged in that questioning.
Sure. So what are some of the challenges that we are facing here on Cape Cod, and what kind of an impact do those federal regulations, or at least the ones that are in place now, have on banking here on Cape?
Well, we know what a unique region Cape and Islands and southeastern Massachusetts are. Our economies are really like no other in the country, and it's what makes it such a special and wonderful place to live. We have a significant reliance on tourism, and that makes a lot of our business very seasonal in nature. Now, a lot of the rules that were written for lending to people to buy a home, let's say I'm a small business person, I want to buy a home. If I get W-2 income from a big company, it's very easy for me to apply for a loan under the new rules. If I'm a small business owner with very variable income, it's a lot more difficult for you to qualify as one of those qualified mortgages. Now, it doesn't mean banks can't do it. In some cases, they actually can't justify it. But in other cases, you may have to pay more, or the bank could expose itself to liability for making the loan.
And of course, we have a lot of small businesses here on Cape Cod as well, and I'm sure that certainly those come with their own special set of challenges, especially in our seasonal economy.
Precisely. You know, we could get a rainy summer, and you would look and see no cash flow on this business. But we've been lending to this business and their family for generations, and we know that they're very prudent and they have enough set aside to last them through till the next season. And so we have local knowledge that allows us to be very flexible. A lot of the rules put us into boxes that don't allow that flexibility.
Great. So I have to ask, our president is a big public figure, obviously have seen him a lot on TV, have heard a lot on the news. What was it like to actually meet our president?
Well, just like when I met you for the first time, and you're somebody I heard on the radio, you know, it's always a moment when you see somebody that you've seen in other settings and you meet them in person. So there certainly is some recognition of, oh gosh, I'm meeting a public figure. I think the more overarching feeling about the event was the sense of history of being in the Roosevelt Room, the sense of history of then being in the Oval Office, and understanding that you are meeting, our goal is to engage with everybody and advocate for community banks. So we're meeting with an important piece of that, both the president and his the Secretary Mnuchin, as well as Director Gary Cohn, who are part of the executive piece of tailoring regulations for community banks, just as we've engaged with our congressional delegation. And, you know, we've seen them all on television, and it's always an experience when you see Elizabeth Warren or Bill Keating in person. So, you know, it's that same sort of, gosh, I've seen you on TV a lot, and now I'm sitting next to you. You know, that's an unusual experience.
Sure, and interacting as well. So
yes.
Did you find him to be engaging and truly connecting with the needs that you and your colleagues were there to talk about?
You know, my colleagues and I were actually, again, very, very gratified that he began with a prepared statement that underscored the criticality of community banks. He talked about how we do nearly half of all small business lending in the country. And so when you start a meeting where somebody already says, yes, we understand community banks are important, gosh, that's going pretty well. So that was good. What was also great, though, was when the press left and the doors closed and you thought, okay, what kind of a meeting will it be now? The interaction was very intense. He kept asking each banker questions, and then he would ask Secretary Mnuchin and Director Cohn questions like, does this take an executive order? Is this something that we need to work with the regulators on? Is this something that we should engage with the legislature on? And so in each case, he would hear an issue, he would hear a potential solution, and then he would circle back to the staff about an answer.
Certainly, and looking at the process as well, because I think that for any elected official, learning the process, or even when you start a new job, learning how to get things done and the processes that need be. So that's encouraging to see, the questions about that process.
Yes, yeah, and the fact that the staff was so prepared with answers and had already studied a lot of the obstacles and were prepared to come up with solutions.
Well, we thank you for joining us for this latest edition of Cape Media News. We'll be back Wednesday with a brand new show. Meanwhile, you can keep up with us online at capemedia.org. I'm Sarah Colvin.